Hello, I'm alone in Finland. This is Cyberpunk, which is a new one for this channel. Been playing a bit of this over Christmas, and there's some other stuff going on, so I thought I'd sort of give a weird ass update and sort of the general situation. In no particular order, so it's just a bit of a rambling, sort of ranty one at the moment. Not really a rant, just some stuffs. So, first off, obviously, I'm not dead. Nice and simple. I've just been sort of hibernating over the Christmas period. There's a running joke out here in Finland for a lot of the guys that not much happens in Finland. They just sort of drink and they fuck, and that's about it. So
we should talk face to face.
Weird and wonderful. So basically, for myself, I'm not earning at the moment. I don't have a job sort of going on over the Christmas period, and I've sort of been spending a chunk of time gaming and stuff like this. At the beginning of my sort of voluntary unemployment-iness, I had a lot of time because the kids were still in daycare, so I was hammering through some stuff with a couple of mates, and I noticed that there's been a weird sort of uptick in the amount of hackers you get in a lot of games. Now, I've sort of touched on this in the past in different videos, mentioning how if you're sort of close to Russia, or I believe close to China from some of the people that I've been talking to, that because of the hacker communities in those particular countries are quite severe, it sort of ruins the online gaming experience. Oops, missed that one. So it can be a bit of an issue in general. And that's something that I've experienced with Counter-Strike and things like that, where you join into a server and you will see a phenomenal amount of hackers. For me, going through Counter-Strike in general, I average something in the region of like 4 or 5 hackers per sort of game, like per game. It is a mental amount of hackers in general. That was a weird one. And it's sort of come to a head in a few other online games. A lot of people are noticing this now. Counter-Strike in general, I thought I had been shadow banned. For those of you who don't know, Counter-Strike has a system whereas if you sort of get reported by the community and almost verified by the community, they don't actually ban you. What they do is they drop you into servers where you basically go through matchmaking with other people that have gone through the same sort of thing. So hackers play with hackers for a while, and then it's once there is sort of some severe blatancy and enough reports, that's where you will get actual bans. Some different theories on why this happens, because there's the legitimate stuff where Valve has spoken about it in the past, where they say, oh well, this actually means that people that are suspected don't have as bad a time of it, and that it's a way that people don't sort of adapt their hacks. Pirate Software has spoken about this in relation to WoW, I think it is, where he was talking about how they would do bans every few months and they do them in big waves. And the problem, the advantage with that is that people can't adapt their hacks. The downside is that people that are hacking sort of have 3 months worth before they're going to get banned, and then they get banned, they buy another account and they continue with the same hack, so they don't need to spend money on hacks. Some of the other ways that they do it is they'll patch for whatever they've been seeing and things like that, and there's different ways around it. But essentially what's going on here at the moment, sort of Finlandish area, I got a couple of mates in Norway and Sweden that are having the same thing, one guy in Denmark that sort of connects the same way. And a lot of the stuff is essentially, if you're connecting to servers where you've got Russian players, you're gonna get hackers. Essentially 50% of the Russian gaming community seems to be using some sort of bot or program and things like that. Not exactly sure why, what's going on, etc., but it's become a big problem. And this is coming through other games, like for instance, more recently I've just uninstalled Battlefield 2042. Now that's a game that I particularly love for all the people that had issues with it, and I do understand the issues. I actually quite enjoyed that game. It was a little bit buggy, but no more than most. I think at launch it was a lot better, and I only came in once it got into like €5. I think it was. I paid for it. But it was a good spiritual successor to Battlefield 1942, which some people will like, some people won't. If you get a chance to go back and play it, it was a fantastic game. And it was sort of a good sort of open area, larger combat game, which is something I quite like, especially with the vehicles and things like that. But now it has gotten to that stage again where it is just a phenomenal amount of bots in the game. So there's, you go into it, you're going to get killed by them sort of repeatedly. And while it's easier to see on games like Counter-Strike where you've got the replay, you can watch the matches at the end of it. You can't quite see it most of the time, so you don't quite know exactly what's going on. But we had a couple of matches where we were playing together where we were looking at it just going, well, you get killed, it sort of snaps your view to see the person that's killed you, and the person is already sort of jumped onto another person, and then you see them kill that person, and then you see the snap, and it's essentially they are immediately switching between targets. There's no turning of the character, it is literally under a frame on your screen where they go from looking straight forward to behind them or left because they're targeting the next closest. And it is just mental to see people doing this and not getting banned for it, where it is something that you could actually catch it scriptable. I'm not sure how many people know this, but the original Counter-Strike, when it was a mod before it was its own game, that Counter-Strike, there was a hack detector that you could use for it if you were running a server that would catch aimbots like that, because it just compared them. It's like, oh, somebody shot this person in the head, they've shot another person in the exact same place, then third person is your lucky charm and you get banned from the server. So that is a program for it that is 20 years old but doesn't exist anymore. So I don't understand why that's going on, and it's put me off a sort of a lot of the gaming thing, because that is the sort of culture that's out here. I've been back in Britain with some of my games, and it's not a case of I've been shadow banned or anything like that. My account seems to be solid when I'm over there. It's just how many people are hacking around about here. And it's gotten far worse. We had a couple of days where we were going through different games. I even put Valorant onto my second rig. I don't like anything that uses kernel level anti-hack, because you shouldn't need to give anything access to the kernel in your computer. So I don't play Valorant specifically for that, or anything else that's got kernel level. But I did get a chance to do it. We went through it, and my god, is that just a rip-off of Counter-Strike. But as we were going through it, it was the exact same problem. It is just bots and bots and bots, and it doesn't matter if you are sort of in these games, it doesn't matter if you're ranked, if you've been playing for a while, or if you're brand new, you're all getting the same type of matchmaking, and it's just mental. So that's been a little bit of the experience over Christmas. I'd filmed some of it, but it wasn't particularly great, and my hands are sort of, the whole nerve damage is shaking my hands at the moment quite a bit, so it's a little bit more stable at the moment, as you can see in this game. But to upset the camera for a second, it was kind of like this when I was online gaming at one point, and I was like, I just can't use that footage, I can't really stabilise it or do anything with it. So that's been a little bit funny to sort of to go through, funny in a dark sense at least. But this is what's been sort of going on. So I'd been playing a little bit of this. For those of you who don't know, this is Cyberpunk with the Phantom Liberty. This is one of the vehicles that comes with the Phantom Liberty thing. You can unlock it as you play through. Good storyline, very good storyline, very impressed with this. If you're not somebody who plays solo player games, if you're somebody who's a multiplayer game, or just, I know a couple of people that just play EVE, nothing else, I would advise having a look at some of the more story-based games, because they are sort of longer and stories are getting very good. Call of Duty Modern Warfare, the original Modern Warfare was fantastic. Modern Warfare then 2 and 3 were a fantastically sort of well-contained storyline. Obviously very dated at the moment and sort of been remade, but I've not had a chance for the newer ones. But then you've got these weird ones, like for instance, we've got this one, Horizon Zero Dawn and Forbidden West, fantastic stories in them. Death Stranding is fantastic. The director's cut is, I would say, play the original, like try and play it without the director's cut if you're going to. just because it almost loses a little bit. That is something that's a bit more entertaining for afterwards. But the main game is a little bit better in my opinion, sort of on its own if it's the first time you're playing through it. And soon enough we should have the second Death Stranding coming out. The stories in those games are fantastic. Hideo Kojima, the director, sort of game creator, directory person, he makes fantastic games. I've never played any of them before, but I've seen this sort of stuff. I just got bored with the amount of cutscenes, but for Death Stranding I was actually enjoying the cutscenes. I didn't find myself being bored at all. I found myself intrigued in the story all the way through. Then what is the one, I've got one kicking about here. Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice is a fantastic game. I've not played the second one yet. I do know that there's the second one out, but it's not something that's particularly heavy in the gameplay. It's very puzzle focused with little bits of combat in there, but it's a fantastic storyline to go through, and it's something that if you are the more sort of story focused gamer like I am, then it's definitely something to have a look at. For myself at the moment, I've been sort of playing more of that basically because I'm having problems concentrating on stuff. So any other sort of games, the likes of Eve, it's kind of taxing mentally, and it's something that I'm not I'm not able to focus on, and because I'm not able to focus too heavily, it's annoying me. So it's not any fault of the game or how the game is. That's also been the same with Space Engineers, because I like building stuff in Space Engineers and I can't focus enough to be able to build it. So there's long periods where I'm just sort of sat there doing nothing, staring into blank space, because my brain's sort of not engaging. You got to love the old complex PTSD and the brain damage that comes along with it. But that's the sort of situation and those sort of things. It's been more of a calm thing. As an update on the computer had some jiggery pokery stuff, but it's all been shifted into a new case. The entire motherboard has been checked over on a microscopic level just to make sure there was no sort of burning and all sorts of stuff by having the water run through it. The reason it got checked out wasn't a necessity originally, but I was having a lot of problems with USB communications and things like that. I had a lot of issues with it, and it turns out the entire thing was a Asus Armoury crate, which I used to run the LEDs, the RGB that's on my motherboard. That was actually, when it was installing new drivers, it was installing extra bloatware. When you were just updating a driver, it installed bloatware and extra programs, and some of them were screwing with the USB stuff. There was something, I can't remember what it was now, but it took ages to pull out, and I had to go through the actual registry and pull stuff out. So this has been part of what's been going on. I had a hard drive break, and I'm still not entirely sure what broke it. It was under warranty, so I got it replaced instantly. I lost all of the footage because it was the one that this records onto. It's a 4TB SIGAT hard drive, I think it was. But still not entirely sure what caused it, whether it was a software glitch or a hardware glitch. But they were just like, oh no, we can see that there's a problem, we don't know what it is, here's a new one. Which was very useful, because that was within, I think, a month of the warranty going out. It was like a standard 2-year warranty under EU law. So I put it in to figure out what the hell was wrong with it, and they just gave us a new one. So there's not been any problems with that since, and all of the driver issues and stuff like that were sorted afterwards. I had a whole load of problems with trying to get my screens connected back up again, because I was trying to use you can split a G9 screen into 2 pieces. I think some of the newer ones you can split into 3. But I was trying to run it as 2, so that the game resolution you're watching just now in the background is the actual is one of the screens. So although the screen's wider, it splits it into 2 separate screens. So you need 2 HDMI or 2 DisplayPort screens, display cables, to be able to run it. But it allows you to run it as 2 monitors, which weirdly enough, it seems to run faster frame rates on some games. This at the moment is running at 40ish average. Seems to be okay. I think it was running a bit higher, about 50 or something, and it might just be the rain that's dropping it down. But this is nice and smooth for us to play. I've got no issues with it. Again, hardware wise, I'm on a 11900 CPU and 4070 Ti, not the super version, just the standard, the original Ti. and it's all M2 hard drives and stuff like that. But that's the sort of hardware specs it's running behind, and it was all some driver issues and stuff like this. We're converting to the new case. I'll get a video of everything finished once I've got the actual desk completely built. It's not fully done at the moment, but the new case has actually meant that everything's running cooler. So literally right now, this is all full ultra that you're watching, and the graphics card is running 63 degrees, and it's not got the fans on full. I don't know how fast they're running, but they're not on full because it has two fans behind it that are linked to the actual graphics card, and one of them kicks in once it gets to about once it gets to 35 or 40 degrees, and the second one kicks in once it gets to 65 degrees, and the second one's not spinning at the moment. So it's keeping it nice and cool. The processor's staying around about 50 degrees the entire time, which is nice. So it's keeping it, the entire case, with changing the radiator as well. I'm running an Arctic Liquid Cool 3. I've got a conversion kit, that's why I'm able to run it on the old generation. If you're looking at them, they only run from 12 series, is it? On Intel. But you can get a conversion kit so you can run it on the older CPUs, which is what I've done because I wanted a 420 radiator. So that's some stuff that got changed over the Christmas period. But then obviously driver issues and stuff like that. Then aside from that, I have actually made a whole load of videos, but I wasn't particularly happy with them, and I don't throw up anything that I'm not really comfortable with. I did a whole series on Kerbal Space Program, but I've decided to redo the whole thing. The reason being is my older videos, when I did it, I just played through the game and recorded it and then narrated it afterwards. Because of sort of the time it takes to play that particular game, it's better if you do it that way, sort of shortening everything time and like time compression. So it'll be something I'll put out when I get a bit more of it done. But again, it's thought process and building things, and got a problem with that at the moment. Same with Space Engineers. That when I was trying to edit it, I couldn't get like any sort of decent video that wasn't just clip because of it just being sort of too short and compressed in the way my brain's working at the moment. So that's part of that stuff. I did do a chunk for Eve, but a little bit of it got spoiled. I was quite confused by a whole load. I was trying to go through some of the faction warfare stuff, and essentially what happened when I was going through the faction warfare stuff, I got botted. So somebody came after us with a whole load of accounts, and they managed to get 2 or 3 good kills on us. They were wiping out an entire thing. I did report them and they did get banned, and all of the accounts got banned. I was keeping an eye on it. I got the reply off of CCP, so if you report somebody, you'll get a reply when they take action against that person. But don't spam the reports, because you'll get action against you, or you'll just get like ignored, essentially, like put on an ignore list. So whatever you do when you report somebody for botting, report that person. If you can see multiple ships, I wouldn't even report multiple ships, just the one main one, and that's the sort of thing. But they do get listened to, they do process them fairly fast, but it kind of in that whole process I lost a whole load of the ships to this ganker. It wasn't really a ganker, it was somebody who was actually sort of coming through things. But so I wanted to redo that, which means sort of logistically moving stuff about. It was at the same time as the other hacking stuff was going on with the other games, so it just kind of put me out of the mood of doing the whole thing, which is why I sort of haven't continued it yet. And my Omega lapsed, so I just haven't put it back on. It's something at the moment, money's a bit tight, so I haven't put that back on yet, because I've not really been playing it. I've been going through this stuff. And just having a little bit of sort of chill time while messing about with these games. Something else that I wanted to talk about, one of the other things that I was looking at was to actually do like single sort of playthroughs. 2 of the ideas that I'd had, one of them was for Twitchy time, because I've been on Twitch occasionally but I can never get regular time for it. But I was thinking about actually doing something where I was going on and just having a chat to people, probably on a Sunday morning or something like this. But I was actually, when I went to do it, I went into somebody else's Twitch stream. I was just looking through random stuff, and there was a person doing a whole thing about sort of mental health and things like this, and I thought it was actually quite a good thing, just sort of being able to get things out, like not from me but from anybody else, and sort of putting being able to chat to somebody and sort of having it come back and different thoughts and stuff like this. I got no ideas for, like, I'm not a professional or anything like that. To be entirely honest, a lot of the stuff that's going on with me I didn't even know was a thing until like the last sort of 2 years, and even some of it I still don't quite understand at all. I've been through a lot of literature to get to the point where I'm sort of very knowledgeable about what's going on, but at the same time, part of the problem with a lot of these things is that the knowledge isn't there. Our sort of names for conditions are not exactly set in stone, and different things are changing all the time. If you don't sort of understand that, look at the history of ADHD in the past, I'd say 20 years, because if you look before 2010, there was a large group of people in several sort of countries that were saying that, oh well, women can't get ADHD because of certain studies that were written, and it was sort of misunderstood. After 2010 that changed, and they were like, oh well, you can get ADHD or you can get ADD. Then they changed it again, they're like, oh no, these are actually the same things. All the while there was somebody who had written a theory on all this stuff decades ago that it turns out was pretty much on the money and has been kind of genetically proved and stuff like that since, that they are all one thing, and it's sort of an older version of the brain. Like, there's separate brain chemistry going on between somebody with ADHD and things like that, so a lot of this is kind of unknown, and a lot of people have been misdiagnosed, which, if they've been misdiagnosed and then used in a study, that means that you've got a study that's completely inaccurate, because you've got somebody who, for instance, is bipolar and not ADHD, or ADHD and not bipolar, and they're in the wrong studies and stuff like this, and there's different stuff going on in the brain. So a lot of interesting stuff and things, but in general, it's, in my opinion, it's just finding some way to sort of talk through it and things like that. So I was thinking about doing a bit of time. Obviously it's not a great one for YouTube, because it's something where you need feedback if you're trying to help somebody. If I was to put out my entire opinion on ADHD and somebody disagrees with it, well, that's a whole video for the disagreement, whereas it could be a conversation. And if it's like trying to put out stuff to help, somebody might say, well, that particular thing's not working, but there might be another way, or something like that. There's a fair bit of it going around, and especially this whole sort of post-pandemic, almost possibly pre-pandemic if you're looking at the news of what's going on in China at the moment. But there's a lot of people sort of struggling with these things, and a lot of things have changed in the world, so I thought it's a good idea to help. I was speaking to somebody not too long ago that was having a lot of problems, essentially because they had some small, easily manageable problems in their life, but then the system that was built to help them was actually causing more harm than good, which is a not uncommon thing. I'm not sure about the other Nordic countries, but in Finland the sort of mental health care is laughable at best. In some cases it's just entirely wrong. I've had stuff handed to me from the doctor that I'm like, this is like 15 years out of date. I specifically know when this was put out of date because of going and reading things, so it's not the easiest of thing, but that's it. We are all human, even doctors and professionals are human. Some of them get their qualifications and don't follow up as things change, so that's why you can get somebody with an opinion that seems out of date, even though they are the respected older doctor and in a more senior position. But then you get the new student that's come in from university that's actually far better, because all of their information is up to date in a subject that's constantly changing. So weird and wonderful ways of going through this stuff, and sort of just life in general. And that's something that I find quite funny, because it also translates into the same sort of topic, translates into gaming and stuff like this, because we have these problems where, if I'm talking about the amount of hackers, if you put that opinion, say, onto Reddit, you'll get people going, well, I haven't seen anybody. Well, if you're in the central US, you're only playing against other Americans, essentially. So that would explain why it's just your culture in there. Whereas if you you would also get the same response as I've had off of somebody that's playing in Australia. And they're like, oh yeah, we get connected to the Chinese servers all the time. They are a bloody nightmare for hackers. So it's all to do with your locality and not just your own culture, but the cultures you're interacting with, even when it comes to digital stuff. People are very surprised at that current funny war situation in the south sort of Western Asia, where you have all that stuff going on with lots of Slavic nations against each other, and people are going, how is it that this supposed superpower is not managing? Well, if you look at their population, a large chunk of their population that can't play games at the most basic level without needing help, that kind of shows you there's something going on there. Not exactly sure what the hell it is. I mean, 27 million people got unalived by Stalin, and it was the middle classes where your intelligence usually sits. Don't know if that has anything to do with it, but we do know there's population things there. So lots of interesting information there, and lots of interesting sort of ways that it finds its way to interlinking and different things. Interlinking, that's something you could get banned for, I'm sure. But yeah, so that's been sort of weird situation I'm in. I'm trying to get everything sorted here. I'm trying to build new areas. There's sort of thoughts and stuff in my own life outside of the internet about actually moving, just completely sort of abandoning the location we're in, and if that's even possible. Obviously when you're a bit older and tied down to houses and mortgages and stuff like this, and then in a situation where work is evaporating, it's not exactly easy. So lots of different things that are going on, and trying to sort of deal with all of these at the same time. I was thinking about doing some solo sort of playthroughs and stuff like this, although I was thinking about doing that and putting it onto Twitch. The problem with Twitch is that I don't sort of stream. If I stream, I don't have regular timings for it, so I might try and work out something with that where I can figure out a time that I'm going to be doing it. But we'll see what's going on there. And then just sort of having people come in and randomly chatting if you're awake at that time. Having a look at some of the funny statistics that YouTube can show you. I can see that the people that are watching are from all around the planet, which is kind of cool. The person in Antarctica, please, for the love of God, drop a comment. I would love to know what you like, who you are, and what you're doing in Antarctica. I can understand there's a whole load of work and stuff down there. I'm meaning specifically, I am very curious about sort of studying and who's doing stuff like that. That was something that was really funny when I saw it on the list. So if you happen to see this, please drop a comment down below. For everybody else, how did that hurt them? For everybody else, feel free, comments, questions, stuff like that, suggestions and things, especially if you have suggestions on sort of management and mental health and things like that. I think it's always good to put stuff down so that other people can see it, because for me personally, my whole ADHD thing came from somebody making videos and me laughing at them going, ha, that's like me, ha ha, that's like me, ha, that's also like me, what the hell is going on here? And discovering that it's my entire personality that's actually just crafted by a condition / a genetic brain makeup, or however you wish to put it. Then also finding out that autism, when somebody's got ADHD, represents itself a whole different thing, and congratulations, you have two conditions that would have been very helpful to know about as a teenager. So fun and games. But yeah, so that's where I sort of am, that's what I'm doing. Oh, whatever you're doing, stop that. Don't be naughty. That's not nice. Oops. That missed. So yeah. I do feel that. The kickoff of this thing is something else. But yeah, so questions, comments, any of that stuff in the doobly-doo. I will be sort of going through things. I think the next one I'm going to try is the EVE Online stuff. When I've got a bit of time, I'm going to do the faction warfare stuff I'm going to start that from alpha. I've got the accounts out there already. So that was something that I was thinking about. But for the moment, this is just where the situation is. Everything's a little bit slow because life is a little bit slow and I can't sort of easily process what else is going on. Some of the stuff that I quite used to enjoy is difficult to sort of think through. For instance, EVE Online, Space Engineers, Kerbal Space Program. Things like, even Rust. It took me so long. I was trying to think what to do in Rust the other day and I couldn't sort of process. It's a mental sort of thing when your brain just kind of locks up on you. And when it's games like this, sort of going through Death Stranding, Cyberpunk, things like that, I was sort of kind of interested about it, but at the same time I can't play it at any rate that I used to. And the online stuff just annoys us. If I find a hacker, it just sort of throws out my mentality. Played a few different things, and some of it was fun. I had an entire day having a good laugh over the weekend, over the holidays, where I was playing Battlefield, and then the last match of it, I saw a hacker. I got killed in a way that when you see the person, you could tell that they were hacking or snapping between targets, and I was like, oh, that's annoying. Why have we got another one? And then there was like 3 more, and those 3 guys had sort of over 100 kills each in a 128 person match, so 64 people per side. And when you actually looked at the kill board at the end, they had like 95% of the kills. It was just them absolutely slaughtering, and I was just like, that doesn't interest me. But it's also so blatant that how are they still there? And the following day I logged into a match with the same guys on it, and I was just like, nah, I'm not interested in this. So that was something that sort of messed with the head. I've got a couple of ones sat there that I've not played yet. So I've got Osiris New Dawn and Outer Wilds that are sat there that I've not had a playthrough yet. I've got tons of games I've not played, like Sable is sat there. But I was thinking about going through some of these and having a bit of a playthrough and a video and stuff like that. So we'll see what's going on. Any suggestions and things like that. If anybody's got suggestions for good games that they like, either multiplayer or single player, please put them down in the thing below. I'm always interested and always curious. I might have had them already, I might not have, but I'll always give some of these things a sort of try, an experiment, because I've had a lot of good suggestions come off of either YouTube comments or YouTube itself. I used to watch a guy called Robas, who's a Swede, he was the person who got me into Kerbal Space Program at the very beginning, because it was a good laugh. So yeah, thanks for watching if you have all the way through. I think you're quite weird, but also I appreciate it. And I have to say, I really like this particular car. I don't know why, it just suits my brain entirely. If you could get a 4-seat, like a Joe Cab Ranger that was kitted out like this, I would love it for work. But yes, so thanks for watching. Speak to you next time. Bye.